Welcome to the Inspire Me podcast. Welcome, dear listeners. My name is Leonie. I am a career coach, corporate trainer, and speaker. The topic today is about career change and all things related to how to write a good LinkedIn profile for people who are looking at changing their careers. So we have Sue Ellson here today. How are you, Sue?
Hi, Leonie. Good, thanks. Thank you for inviting me back.
Yes, I will share with everyone that your background in a moment, but certainly I am so happy that you're here. I'm very excited, and we've got a few questions that we're going to work with together, and I'm sure everyone here who's listening will be very happy to hear what you have to share in reference to anyone who's looking at career change and updating their LinkedIn profile. So to begin with, so how do I know Sue? I met Sue back in the day when we used through career CDAA, the Association for Career Coaches, and she was presenting there, and I had the privilege to sit in her workshop. Actually, she probably didn't see me in the workshop.
Don't recall it.
But she was very engaging. She was really down to earth, and I thought, this is a very special person. I could feel her compassion at that point in time at that workshop, and we stayed in touch since. Sue is based in Melbourne, and I'm based in Sydney, Australia. And so we've been in touch by LinkedIn, online, phone calls, Zoom meetings for many, many years. And then over the years, Sue also recommended me as a coach to people she knows, and so I've taken on some opportunities. I've been involved with collaborated, for example, on a podcast going back all the way back to May 2020. You were the second guest on the podcast. So here we are 3.5 years later.
It's amazing. Unbelievable.
Yes. So I find that, and I just attended her webinar that was on at 12 p.m. and she always continues to inspire me and help me see LinkedIn from a different angle in terms of searching, in terms of networking, all LinkedIn related matters. Now, in terms of her background, I have her bio in front of me, so I just wanted to go through that. Sue is an independent LinkedIn specialist, author, educator, consultant, many other titles on her LinkedIn profile, so feel free to have a look at it. She joined LinkedIn on the 21st of December 2003, and she was one of the first 80,000 people in the world on the platform. And she has been consulting on the topic of LinkedIn since 2008, and certainly has written a few books on LinkedIn. So what's one of the names of the books? LinkedIn for Me and My Career and Business. And I'm definitely going to get that book.
Yeah, I have bought the latest one.
Yeah, latest one. I've bought a few for my clients, and the clients have really appreciated it. So Sue's background is in banking, training, recruitment, HR, marketing, employment, websites, and social media, and more. But that's it for now. But then now my first question is, in addition to what I've shared so far, if you can share with us a little bit more about yourself, that would be great. One last thing to mention is that Sue's got more than 28,000 followers on LinkedIn. Congratulations. And on Channel 9, she's been on the Channel 9 17 times. So congratulations, Sue. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Leonie. It's great fun. And yeah, look, the main way I help people is one-on-one. That's what I enjoy doing the most, because then they can tell me their story and I can work through that and optimize LinkedIn for that particular purpose and that particular person or organization. But I also do run workshops. I do a lot of writing, and the gig on television came out because I regularly contribute content to publications. And for that particular one, it was the Daily Mail. And then the producer at Channel 9 saw it and then invited me on, and I don't know, maybe all that training helped, but then I ended up on television and now I just keep going back. So it's not a paid gig, but I feel it's my responsibility as a member of the Career Development Association of Australia to give more people access to the value of seeking advice from someone like you or me about their career, because most of us just end up in a career by serendipity. You know, there's another person who talks about chaos theory. There's lots of ways that people end up in jobs, a friend of a friend, or, you know, it just came up, or I was desperate for something. But I spent 3 years reading books. Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow, Find Your Purpose in Life, What Colour's Your Parachute, you know, purpose, meaning, all that kind of stuff. And I was so angry because at the end of the 3 years, I still didn't have an answer as to what I should do with my life. And so I ended up creating this mind map exercise, which helps. And that's what I recommend to my clients. But if we're not, there's a saying that exists in all faiths, religions, beliefs, even if you just believe in the alien nation or something or another, it doesn't matter. But what all of them say is ask and you will receive, or a variation of that. So if you just ask, oh, just give me a job, I've got to get out of here, you know, you'll end up with any job. But if you think about what is it you'd really like, the culture, the type of work, the type of location, you know, daily activities, that sort of thing, then you've got a much greater chance of leading yourself towards that. And had I gone to a career coach, I probably would have worked that out in 3 hours, not 3 years, because even after 3 years of reading, I didn't get an answer.
Yes, it's definitely what we do as a career coach is so much, we add so much value. And as you mentioned, if you can try and work it out yourself with a coach over 3 hours versus 3 years, like you're really saving so much time and energy and stress as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, people are taught how to do a job. They're not taught how to find a job. So the same thing applies. I mean, you go to uni and sometimes they give you a little bit of career advice somewhere along the line, a little couple of sessions on applying for grad positions or something, but that's not enough. And a lot of people end up at uni because it's what their parents wanted or what they thought they wanted, and then they do the course and they hate it. So I started a TAFE course because when I joined the bank, they said, oh, you need to do this business certificate in banking. And after 9 subjects and falling asleep in lectures and failing introductory accounting, etc., I realised it just was not for me. And I still enjoyed studying, so I kept studying. But then the next course I chose, which was a degree, was something that was relevant for me. You know, I knew myself, you know, in my late 20s much better than I did when I left school. So, yeah, I think all of us have the opportunity to change at any time. But why make it hard for ourselves? Why not get some help? And yeah, that's the benefit of speaking to a career advisor.
And so I'm also curious, why do you continue to run these webinars every single month?
Yeah, look, the numbers don't stack up. I'm telling you now, it doesn't lead to clients. But what it does is it forces me into a discipline of producing content on a regular basis. It forces me to invite people to events. It forces me to do research to provide something of value. And I have always, in my heart of hearts, been an educator. I like passing on information and finding information that's relevant because I do so much learning. So when I finished my degree, I kept going to events. I go to up to 4 events every week, online, offline. I watch YouTube videos by the hours on end. And so I'm always learning because I want to be kind of one step ahead and always employable. Because when I got sacked when I was pregnant, as soon as my daughter was born, I was back in demand. And I thought, this is a scary position to be in. They want a breastfeeding mother, but what will happen when I hit 40? Will they still want me, kind of thing? Well, I'm now 58 and I've still got, you know, work, and that's fantastic. And so, and, you know, I enjoy running the webinars. Originally they started off at an hour and nobody wants to go to a webinar for an hour anymore. So I've cut them back to half an hour. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking, is this the best format to educate people? And I've locked them all in for this year, but I am considering producing more short form video content because people want to know what they want to know when they want to know it, rather than, you know, today at midday kind of thing. So I'm thinking, you know, perhaps more short and perhaps long form video content that people can access at any time with a search query might be the better way to go. So one of my videos on YouTube has had over 100,000 views, but they're mostly from young males in India. And well, of course, they're not going to pay for my career services. So yeah, you know, yes, I can reach more people, but you know, you've got to have this balance between earning enough to eat as well as, you know, educating and providing value. And I'm more than happy to provide value, but I do still have to eat. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you. I attended the one today, and you asked us, the participants, to identify at least 2 or 3 actions to follow up on and what to take action. So I really enjoyed the webinar, and looking forward to the next one that you have one in, I think you said, was it the 14th of February?
Yeah.
12 p.m. Yeah. So for networking.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. So everyone who's listening, please have a look at Sue's website and LinkedIn. There's so many resources, abundance of resources on her website as well as on LinkedIn, and the events, the upcoming events. But what I loved about what you just said, Sue, is that the discipline of holding these events, it really does help, like you said, that discipline of continuous research, and then really adding value on a regular basis. So it's really inspiring me to start doing something as well. I've got some ideas in my mind.
Great, that's fantastic. Well, just make sure it's manageable. I mean, I've streamlined some things. I use the same image, I use the same text, I just change the word, I use the same 10 ways. I mean, I've templated it as much as I can, but I really love it when people attend live and ask questions, because then it adds a bit more life to it.
Definitely. So for everyone who's waiting, the people who are potentially looking at career change, so what do you think are some of the key challenges of someone who is changing careers in reference to their LinkedIn profile?
Well, I'm going to go back a step. I'm going to say one of the biggest significant changes is your family and friends. They've got accustomed to you being person X, and now all of a sudden you want to become person Y. And for some people, that's difficult to accept. And so you could, you know, even before you start to think about what you're going to put on your LinkedIn profile, you might have what everybody calls imposter syndrome. How can I say that? I'm only starting. I've never done this before. So, you know, get your head in check first, I'd say, first of all. But then secondly, because people don't have the experience, they think, well, I can't mention it. Well, that's not true. You can't lie. You know, there's no way you can lie. But let's say you've already done the study and you were doing that part-time or over a duration whilst you were still in your old role, or you took some time off and you've completed your study. You can still use those keywords, but you don't say that you're a specialist or an expert or something like that, but you can still use those words. So as an example, I had a young man who'd completed his accounting studies and he got a job, didn't work out, a bit of a personality clash. But what we called him was an aspiring accountant. So he would then come up in a search query for accountant, even though he wasn't qualified right now. So you can use future accountant, aspiring accountant, trainee accountant, like whatever you want to use, the word in front, so that you still appear in those search results. So you've really got to be thinking about that. So if you were becoming a new accountant, then you'd have to think about, well, if I want an accountant, do I want a chartered accountant? Do I want a CPA accountant? You know, what sort of accountant would somebody be looking for in a search query? And all those keywords must be in the headline of your LinkedIn profile, which is directly underneath your name. And the next thing is, LinkedIn expects you to have some level of experience. So you could put in that you are doing career research for an accounting role and your employer is various, starting from the date you started the course until now. So that is career research. It's not a lie, but it fools the algorithm into believing that you started your accounting back in, you know, when you started the course rather than right now. So you could do that, and you could make that the top one on your LinkedIn profile. So not the second one because you're in a job now, but you can shuffle the current roles and make that the top one and be present. But then the next thing you need to do is adjust all your skills. So skills is something you can add to multiple sections on your LinkedIn profile now. So the about section, your experience, licenses and certifications, education, as well as the skills section. So if previously, I don't know, you were a banker and now you want to be an accountant, you might have had the banking skills at the top of the list, whereas now you want to move the accounting skills to the top of the list. So when people look at your profile, the top 2 or 3 that they see would be those accounting ones. Now, you're not going to have as many votes for it. That's fine. Yeah, so there's that. Now, the final piece is, who are you connected to? So if you're an accountant and you're only connected to one other accountant, which was the person you did a work placement with or something or another, it doesn't help the algorithm understand that that's your niche. So if you could start connecting to every accountant within QE of where you live, then that could be very helpful too, because then the algorithm knows this is an accountant who's connected to other accountants and so on. And then also follow the companies where those accountants work, because if you're following that company, then you're more likely to appear in the search results of that company as well. So there's actually a lot of things that you can do, even though you might not have as much experience as you think. Now, if I went from banking to accounting, there would also be a lot of transferable skills. I have customer service, I have time management, I have project management, you know, all those kind of skills I got in banking, I could definitely apply to accounting. So make sure you list all of those as well. Yeah.
Mm, thank you. So I think the first point around mindset, accepting who you are and you're the new version of yourself, and how do you then best communicate that? That it really is the hard work, that getting around that first before you can actually go out to market and say, this is who I am and this is who I was and this is who I want to be.
It is. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Quite often the biggest competitor is ourselves. Yeah.
Correct. And also in relation to skills, I think when I'm working with clients who are changing careers, they find, I found that they can sort of underestimate their skills and they can't see their transferable skills. And I think that's the beauty of working with a career coach like yourself, and any other coaches in Australia, to help the individual understand and see clearly what skills they have and what are those transferable skills. So thank you. Would you like to add a comment on that one?
No, that's perfect summary. Yep.
Yes. The next question is, when a professional is changing careers, what is one tip you can share on how to make their LinkedIn profile stand out?
Well, the background image that goes next to your photo, I normally just have a colour or something plain, because I don't want to just distract from your face, but your face is looked at for 65% of the time. So if you previously a banker and now an accountant, there's probably not too much difference in appearance for those two. But say you were a banker and now you're a writer, you know, that's a very different kind of impression that you could potentially be giving. So make sure your photo's updated and the background ties in with that. Now, I don't want you to make something so busy and distracting that people are looking at that instead of your face, but you know, you might want to change that, because 70% of us are visuals. So, and because so much is done on a screen nowadays, the rest of us who might be audio or kinesthetic, we still know how to look at a screen. So, you know, the visual is very important. But that headline piece is the main one. So whatever you want to be classified as your label, so my label is independent LinkedIn specialist, then that needs to be at the beginning of the headline. So yeah, just make sure that that's there. Yeah.
Okay. So the background photo, headline.
Correct. Yeah.
And just going on that example you mentioned, if you were a banker and you're transitioning to become a writer, you'd want your photo and the background photo to be more like, that feel of being creative and writing, and not the numbers or the banking corporate look.
Correct. But I mean, you might be a writer of non-fiction and it's all about numbers. So, you know, it could be the right thing. But if you're suddenly a children's writer, your banking photo is going to look a little bit incongruent. So, yeah.
Yes. Okay. How about the career summary? So can you give an example on what someone would write if they were moving from one career to another? I've got here as an example, we're using an accountant as an example here, but this kind of example is applicable to anyone else, just to change the title. So for example, an accountant and they're studying to become a counsellor. So in the career summary, what are your suggestions?
Well, I'm a great believer in bullet points, because a lot of people will be looking at a LinkedIn profile on a phone. So you can scroll through a list of bullet points and read it and absorb that information really, really quickly. Whereas a long narrative of, I started my career here and I did X and I did Y and now I did a course and la, 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 la. You know, by the time the person gets to that, it could be too long. So that's the past, present, future model. What you could start is with the future, present, past. You know, I would like a role as a counsellor. That's the future. Presently, I'm studying and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And previously, I was doing Y. So you can, you know, use that sequence, because most people are going to stop fairly quickly at the beginning. So you want to get that main message in at the top. Now, you don't say, I wanted to become a counsellor because my dad died and I had to nurse him for 3 years and I had to clean up his, you know, bodily fluids, and, you know, you make it all this terrible drama. Like, I don't recommend that for something like LinkedIn. But the reality is that after a while, every LinkedIn profile looks the same as every other LinkedIn profile. So if you can make it a narrative that people can visualize as they read it, but make it succinct, that can be helpful. And also, basically, one sentence is one paragraph. You need to have a lot of white space in it, because again, when it squashes up on a phone, it's very hard to see. So that's another thing that I keep in mind. But I still like the dot points, and just talk to the current skills related to being a counsellor and the transferable skills, and just talk to that rather than, you know, summarise all that previous accounting stuff. That's not necessarily relevant for moving forward. Now, the other thing to remember is you also need that in the experience section in the actual career research role you're looking for now. So you'd want to repeat all those keywords there, because they're the 3 main spots. Oh, sorry, there's another spot. The headline first, the job title is the second, and then the description of the role next to that, or, you know, previous job title or the current job title, but the description of that. And then it's all the other sections. So the summary, what's now called about, or the skills, or, you know, other roles, or, you know, licenses and certifications, whatever. But then the number 1 field it must be in is the headline, and the number 2 field is in your current job title. Because if it's not in those 2, it's going to be really hard for you to appear in search results.
Yes, I really like that structure that you shared around talking through the future, the present, and the past. And in that, when you are explaining, to clearly convey your reason why you are changing careers, and being comfortable explaining it as well, because you need to help the employer or whoever's reading the profile understand your journey, and understand who you are and what you're looking for. So I like that structure: the future, present, and the past, and you said to visualize it, and to make it clear and succinct, so when people read it, they get the essence of what you're trying to say. Yeah.
And reduce those 3-syllable words, you know, because if you're a banker or in government, you're used to government speak, you want to eliminate all of that. Short sentences, double syllable words, not triple or, you know, quadruple. Another quick story that might be a little bit relevant for you. I met this amazing man. He was a student when I was teaching, and he came into the room and he looked like from Mad Max. He was a wild looking guy. And of course, we get him to introduce himself, and he says he's an illusionist. So he's one of those people who does magic tricks, but everything is an illusion. And so everybody asks him, how did you become an illusionist? Now, sadly, his story was he was a Qantas airline pilot, but he hurt his back, so he could no longer fly. So you can imagine having to tell that story over and over again about why he became an illusionist, which reminded him of his back injury and the recovery process. I mean, who wants to say all that all the time? Whereas if you've got it written on your LinkedIn profile, if you want to know what I did in the past, just look on my LinkedIn profile. And then you don't have to reiterate it. And everybody knows.
That's a great idea.
And he also said that there are plenty of transferable skills from being a pilot. You have to, you know, be prepared. You have to have everything organised. You have to keep the passengers happy. You know, like there was all these things that you wouldn't think, oh no, he's flying a plane. Oh no, there was heaps of transferable skills he had.
Of course, of course. And emergency management is massive.
Yeah. And he was so cool. Like he was just, I mean, you imagine being stuck in a cockpit for God knows how many hours with people. I mean, that requires a certain level of skill and the ability to, yeah, anyway.
And that's a very good point, that you don't want to explain the reason for changing careers over and over and over, especially when it's based on an unpleasant experience in your life and just recalling that over 1,000 times. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this topic of career change, LinkedIn profiles, Sue?
Yes, I think that if you're thinking about a career change, there's three elements, and I've got a feeling we've talked about this before. First of all, values, the value you provide and the values you live by. So a value of mine is I will have nothing to do with gambling or horse racing or alcohol. You know, I just won't be involved in promoting any of those activities. So that's a value of mine. But the value I provide is I'll help the person do this A, B, and C. So there's those two. The second one is the skills. Now, ironically, I could be a very good accountant, but I hate accounting. So that's a natural skill, but I don't like it. Whereas I've developed plenty of acquired skills that I do like. So we need to think about, oh, just because you are a fantastic X doesn't mean you can't be a fantastic Y. With education, if you love it, you know, that's just as good. So there's your values and your skills. And the third one is your context. Now, it's all well and good to say, I want to be a brain surgeon. Sadly, I've missed the boat. You know, I'm too old to be a brain surgeon, but there are plenty of other things that I could be. But if my circumstances prevented it right now, because I have a young family, I have a mortgage, I've accepted this job, I can't go 6 months without salary, whatever it is, whatever the reason being, you say to yourself, my context is X, I'm caring for someone, you know, I've got to do this for now. But in the future, I can do that career change. So don't assume, throw your hands in the air, I can't do career change. Yes, you can, but maybe now is not the exact right time. That doesn't mean you can't do a couple of courses or go to a couple of events or find a mentor or do other things. But yeah, so value, strengths, and context is really important in determining all this. I know that's not specifically related to LinkedIn, but I think it's really important to consider. And the other thing that is related to LinkedIn is when the platform first came out, it was all just an online resume, whereas now our whole society is moving to a skills-based model. So if you have the skills, then you can be considered for that opportunity because you have the skills, not just because you worked for XYZ company and you had XYZ title. So I think that's really exciting. So if we can keep learning and acquiring skills, and let's face it, with artificial intelligence, we're going to have to keep learning them because the people who can use AI will keep being employed and the people who can't use AI will get left behind. So we've got to keep learning and adding those skills, and it's okay to take some skills out. So you can actually declutter some of those skills because they're not as important now as they were in the past. That doesn't mean take out your past history. I'm very proud of the fact I spent 11 years in the bank and I have corporate experience, and I've listed that succinctly because it was pre-1994, which is, you know, a very long time ago now. So I've still told the story of where I've come from, and I'm happy to do that. But yeah, we've still got to think about what's the main way to tell our story now. And that's usually by the photo, the headline, and the about. So they're the three things that, if that's the image you're trying to portray, oh, and of course that current job title, that's where you can go from that.
Thank you so much. I think that definitely what you mentioned on your values, your skills, and the context, factoring all that in. And it may not be that it will happen now for career change, but at least you're planning for it, and it will happen if you plan for it. And perhaps reach out to Sue Ellson.
Yeah, well, look, I remember hearing of somebody who got a job as a cleaner in a hospital. Now, I'm not suggesting you go to quite that level, but she was so determined to work in healthcare that she took a cleaning job so that she could meet people and network on the job.
Oh, wow.
That's impressive. I heard another guy who worked in a hotel because he realised that people who stayed in hotels had a high net worth. So he was hello to everybody in the corridor and got a job. And then the final one is this guy was new to Australia, but had a lot of IT skills. So he got a boring job in a call centre, but everybody realised he could fix any computer problem, and it was a big call centre. So he just kept getting little jobs in the background from all of the people in the call centre, and he did a lot of private jobs. And then he built up his business enough so that one day he could leave the call centre and he already had his clients. So there are many different ways to go about the career change process, not just change your LinkedIn profile. There's a range of different strategies that you can use.
Yes.
But obviously you have to change your LinkedIn profile at some point.
Of course. So that concludes our podcast together. I would like to just say that anyone who's listening, if you have followed through till now, congratulations, well done. And to actually reflect, as soon as you stop this podcast, to stop and think about 1 to 3 actions that you can implement right away within the next 48 to 72 hours. Because that's the most important thing. If you're listening to something and you don't take action, then it's just in and out. So certainly try and take at least 1 to 3 actions in the next few days. And I just end this podcast with a poem, because I know Sue likes writing poetry. And so the poem is about success in her book.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay.
I'm going to read it out aloud. And so it's called Success. And the book is called Gigsters. So one of her books that won an award. So the poem goes like this. Success. To linger longer, to reflect and review, to measure and assess, to see a different view, to change and adapt, to remember and remind, to succeed a little more, say thanks and be kind. Sue Ellson.
Oh, thanks, Leonie. I don't think I've had anybody else read out my poem before, so that's really sweet. I did do this amazing thing at the State Library of Victoria recently. They called for poets and they converted my Symphony of a Rainy Night into Braille, and it's now in the library as a piece of Braille.
Oh, congratulations, Sue.
Yeah.
And congratulations to us. We have officially completed our 2nd podcast together.
Yep.
And thank you, dear listeners, thank you for listening. And stay tuned. There will be more guests coming up in the near future, and very excited to be able to invite some amazing guests that's going to come online soon to share some tips in relation to career and business. Thank you so much, Sue. It was great fun working with you today.
Thank you, Leonie, and thank you for being so committed to sharing so many people's wisdom, not just mine, but mothers as well. So thank you for facilitating that.
Oh, thank you, everyone.